all cleaned up and on the bench, my friends, and I cannot tell you the huge size of this machine. It is a monster 1/5 scale gas powered racing machine. You guys may have followed along over the last few months of when Everett and I have been building this machine up, as well as installing the engine and the Bartolone. This is the whole Kraken mod engine from Bartolone with the pipe on the back. Everett and I ran this truck. I did run into a few problems right off the bat, which is kind of to be expected for me at least, testing things out and seeing how they're going. One of the things that I needed to do was to get in here and wrap some Teflon on the inside, because it seems that with the vibration, sometimes these collars on the GiANT shocks here actually work their way off. And I had shock boots on here and I didn't see that one had actually unspun and had leaked out the oil. So I'm going to put some Teflon tape on the inside of those today, as well as on my first running video. I must have just had a bad pour, or maybe just took a bad tumble where I actually snapped the front arm. Here, let me move this for you. Here we are. So you can see here, unfortunately, I took a bad hit on my racetrack. We do have rocks, lots of different things. Plus, I also went through a move. So I don't know, really just bad luck on how this broke at the time. But I do have new aluminum arms from Kraken here. I've been very, very fortunate to be able to install them here on the vehicle so we can, you know, kind of beef it up. I also have the aluminum hubs on the inside here already. And so just to change out the shocks today with the Teflon tape and these arms, I think is going to make a huge difference. Bum, 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 bum. Here are the aluminum arms. I'll read on the back. The KRAKEN VEKTA.5 billet aluminum HD front lower arm set of 2. Can I get them to clank together? Yeah. Wow. Just the color of these. It's like a brushed gunmetal. Oh man. Okay, 1 and 2. Heavy duty. Okay, and then the other ones. This is the upper mount, or the upper arm set for the mount. Beautiful. Same kind of thing. Yep, I won't be having any more problems with these. Okay, let's get them in position so we can have a look here. Okay, so the upper right one will fit in right about there. Man, that looks amazing. Okay, same with the other one. Roughly about there on the bottom. So just getting them lined up straight. And I think just for fun, I'll use my impact tool. Using the impact was just for show, of course. So I'm going to remove the shock, the bottom of the shock. You can see here one of my kingpins that actually already worked its way out, so that's easy to release. Lost the nut on the end, or the screw on the end, unfortunately. And I'm just going to lift this shock right out of the way, like that. Everything slides out nice and easy. Nope. Maximum setting, but of course I'm going to need the socket on the back, or at least my channel locks. There's the upper swing arm for the bumper. Swing that out of the way. Just going to come in with a hand driver. Back off the screw that holds the cap in place. Ta-da! There's the kingpin. Don't want to scratch it up, just pulling gently. And removing the kingpin and that upper arm assembly. And off it comes. So just like we had lined up before, can easily just put this right back in. Okay, so one thing I noticed when I was actually trying to assemble it to this upper arm, which you can see is now threading very clear, is when I took the whole assembly apart, I actually had the reverse thread going on in the arm, and so I could not thread it on properly. It just would not hook, and I thought, oh, they must have cut it wrong. But then I took the rod end off and I simply flipped the entire bar around, or oh my gosh, the name is eluding me right now, but this whole screw part, Putting it in like this, it goes in super simple. Now what I'm going to do is, judging from the spacing on my other arm, I'm going to make sure that everything is adjusted just right so I have the proper amount of camber on here. Getting tight. Yeah, and that's about right. Take that kingpin, slide it through the top again. And that's how simple the upper arm is to change out. Okay, let's roll this big fella over. Remember, before you start using these hex screws or hex drivers on the screws, to make sure to clear out as much of the dirt that might have acquired in the screw holes. Nobody likes a dirty hole, or else you're actually going to end up stripping it out, right? So I just want you to be careful in case you're working on it, that if you have too much dirt in the hole, the hex driver won't actually get enough grip, and it may cause it to strip, which will, then you'd have to drill it out. Okay, removing the bumper. And I'm going to remove the front cross plate. Look at those screws. This way I'm able to remove the kingpins from the two front lower arms. Lifting it up, exposing the kingpins. Same kind of idea. I'm just going to slide this front one out. And just for the folks that are new watching the show, I'm just going to line up my parts here so they have an exact match. Know that they're directional, so I want to get that right. Just simply flip the kingpin into the new one. Immediately slide it back in place. Right about there. So the upper arm on this side is complete. Well, I'll just get those all tightened up when I get the spindle in place, and the lower arm. Now my goal is to go on the other side. Move this other shock out of the way. Now I do have to take the tire off. A little more practical use, of course, is your ratchet. Or a breaker bar. Sometimes I use a breaker bar on here just to make sure I've got enough torque on those wheels. Like that much torque. Because I gotta tell you, when I'm racing around, I hate those wheel nuts. They're black. If you're on a track, basically you're gonna be losing them. Unless you got an eagle eye. Okay, so with that out of the way, all I need to do is remove the kingpin on the outside for the spindle, which will remove the C-hub. I can slide out this old arm, get the other arm I have ready to go, match up the side, slide the kingpin in place. This will be the first completed arm. Come on, fella, get in there. Lowering it definitely helped because the tire was pushing it out of the space. Back in. Have my screw. I'm just going to hand turn it on this side. Done. So here is the whole assembly, all aluminum upgrade. Not rod ends. I wouldn't mind this, but also this is a great place if we do have a bad bash or something has to stretch out, where it can actually pull on the plastic rod end instead of bending this whole front aluminum area. But I'm telling you, to bend this would take a lot of force. So here, it's not that much heavier. Of course it is aluminum, but it's quite light. I think the next part for me to do is, apart from fixing the shock, I just need to put on that front assembly and the bumper. Pretty rainy and windy today. I figured this would be a good opportunity for me to do some maintenance that I've wanted to do on this machine. Even when it's raining, I'm out there RCing. Either fixing my rigs or out there having fun. Nice and tight, but not over tight. Now here's right there, so that's where I'm wondering about the tightness, right? Because when I go to flex this arm, now that that plate's on there, it is a little bit tight. So I'm gonna back this off a bit. That's much, much better. And then how is this one? Yeah, still pretty tight as well. So I want to keep it flush. There we go, that's where it basically loosens it up. I'm keeping it flush with the plate hole right here so it's nice. And then it's perfect. You can see it's free and moving with ease, and everything is nice up front here. Very good. So I'll flip it over and put the bumper back on, as well as the spindle I might as well put on right now for you. Why not, hey? Because it really does look intimidating to some folks, but a machine like this has been built so it is easier to work on. I love the open concept platform, basically, of being able to access everything without having to disassemble like 50 pieces. Remember, when you're working with metal on metal components that are always moving, a little Loctite will go a long way, especially when you're bashing around or racing, because the simple vibrations of the car itself are going to want to back off some of those screws, and the Loctite will just help them keep cinched in place. Okay, time to demonstrate what I wanted to do with the shocks. Now, these are actually massive. These front shocks are a little bit shorter than the rear shocks, but they basically work the same way. So I'm just going to compress the spring and take off the lower shock perch. There's the lower shock perch. I'm going to remove that spring. And this is the collar area that I'm speaking about, that I want to use some Teflon tape. Now I'm actually going to change out the shock oil altogether on it. Don't want any dirt on the inside of the shock fluid or on the threads when I put the Teflon tape on. Standard Teflon tape you can see here, just regular plumber's tape. Very thin, it's not sticky on either side, rather it's very stretchable. Well, it is, you can see there how much it's stretched before. So I'm going to take that small stretched piece, and generally, you guys, let me see if I can show you right here. I don't even need a lot, hey? I'm just wanting to seal up that area. So I'm holding it with one thumb, just doing a quick wrap. I'm gonna do one complete wrap and a little bit more. Get that out of the way. There, I'm pulling it tight. And there, so now the threads are covered in Teflon. And when I actually go to re-thread this bottom collar on, it's actually making a seal, which will help it almost like thread lock, where I don't have to worry about it backing off easy. Nice. So now I don't have to worry about this backing off anymore. I may even do the same thing in the shock cap up here, but I haven't decided because I haven't really had any issue here yet. Just removing the top of the shock. Okay, so there's two types of oil for the KRAKEN VEKTA.5 shocks. Now, if you want to be proper and get the correct oil with the correct weight, here it is, 150 CST, 100 cc's. This is actually for the rear shocks, and the front shocks get the 250 CST. Got this at Dave's Discount Motors or DDM online, where you can get the VEKTA.5 as well, and the proper shock oil and the accessories. And everybody always asks me about these bits that fit in my drill. They also sell these at davesmotors.com. So hopefully that helps you out if you've been searching. Let me get out the top here. Open, doesn't have a seal. Gonna collapse my shock like this. And then as I pour the oil in, I'm just going to work those air bubbles out by extending the shock. And I continue to pour, and you guys probably can't see, but watch this. See the air bubbles rising as I'm extending the shock shaft? This way, it's sucking all that oil down. And I'm gonna compress my shock again just to help those air bubbles work their way out. Here I've just put the shock tower off to the side. You can see the air bubbles right there. And as I leave it, these air bubbles are actually rising and popping. And my goal is to get all of the air out of there, or else the shock doesn't function properly. Okay, now that the air bubbles have generally worked their way out, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm gonna compress my shock to about that much area, right? Everybody likes to do this a little bit differently. Some people like to do it right up at the top. And then of course, it really depends on your rebound rate that you want right there. Making sure that my lid is good, trying not to squeeze out any of that fluid on top. Tightening it up, pardon me.
Now that everything is tight, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can compress the shock. I can, and then let it go to see how far it comes out. Now it should come out about halfway. Mine's looking to extend a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust that with the amount of fluid I have inside and where I had my compression rate at when I did the top collar up, or the top lid. Slide the spring on after you're adjusted it to the point that you want. And of course this collar, actually this bottom perch, has a hole for you to slide it onto the shock shaft, turn it around, that hole slides down, and there is your completed shock. Give her a push, make sure she comes back, and I'm actually pretty happy with that. That's a full return rate that I have going on, so I don't have any airlock. Okay, as a side note, just for those fifth scalers that actually have been buying these raw pipes, some of you, it might already be too late if it's rusted up really bad, but if you don't have a chrome coating or some sort of ceramic on here, these raw pipes tend to rust up. Now here, because I keep my oil and gas separate, this is my oil mix jug. I've got a little bit of raw two-stroke oil in there right now. I'm just gonna tie it on an old, or put some on an old rag. I'm going to go ahead and just coat my pipe in oil. The reason why I'm doing this is when the pipe actually gets hot, this oil will set on here and keep this from looking really nasty with all the rust and stuff if I wash it or if I splash through a puddle or something like that. Look at that. And does it ever bring out the colors in the welds, hey? So there you have it, my friends. The arms are now installed. Check it out. Aluminum C-hubs straight through that allows the axle to come out to the wheel. Aluminum upper and lower arms for maximum strength. And I was able to get in and rebuild, well, not even rebuild, just refill these shocks, as well as put Teflon tape on the bottom. I did not do the Teflon tape on the top. I actually didn't find it to be very necessary at the moment. But there you can have a good look at the setup. It sits so nicely. You can see the front bumper is now on and in place, and its resting position is close to as perfect as I could say. Same on the back. Went in here and I changed out for this because these collars are actually aluminum as well. The problem that I was having here is aluminum on aluminum with no thread lock, you know, kind of makes this wiggle free. So the Teflon tape in there will certainly help. I will go ahead and reset my suspension with these collars here, this top spring perch. I also went in and I Loctited these top grub screws for the swing arms here, and overall the pipe has been re-oiled so that can set up properly, bake on there, and there. A completely upgraded Vecta.5. Now the only thing I'd like to see upgraded from here are these plastic rod ends. From what I understand, Kraken is working on some aluminum rod ends right now to help these from not stretching out when it does like cartwheels and stuff. But overall, my friends, there it is. I hope this gives you a general idea of how big this truck actually is. I got to do a bit of shop tidy up around here, and then I can finally get this Kraken Vecta.5 back out ripping on the track. I'm super stoked to do that, and heck, thanks a lot guys for tuning in. I know it was a little bit more technical today, but when you're working with big machines like this, you got to be careful. They're a lot of weight and they travel at a lot of speed, so I like to make sure to get everything in there Loctited properly. I did not Loctite these front shock what would we say these? These are just basically protectors so these don't come off, but I'm not really too worried about these. It's got enough Loctite in this machine to hold it together for a few races, so make sure to tune in. Hopefully I've earned a like click from you today and you guys have been able to have an up close look at my Kraken Vecta.5 racing truck, and I've got lots of racing coming up in the 2017 series. So guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. Give us a subscription. We'll see you in the next episode of RC Adventures. Now go outside and have some fun with RC, or if it's raining or windy like today, stay inside and get that maintenance done. Bye.